Have you ever had the feeling that you are a ghost in your own life? You speak in a meeting, and it's as if the words vanish into thin air. A moment later, someone else says the same thing, and everyone listens. You enter a room, and your presence barely registers. You spend your days doing, serving, and helping, and yet you feel profoundly unseen. This is not your imagination. It is the quiet, painful crisis of the person whose identity has become fused with their function. We were taught an invisible, powerful equation as children. My usefulness is my visibility. My doing is my being. And so we fear that if we stop doing, we will simply disappear. But the great psychologist Carl Jung offered a radical and hopeful alternative. He understood that our most brilliant, most vibrant, and most powerful qualities are often the very ones we are taught to hide, to dim, to exile to the shadow out of fear of being too much, too bright, or outshining others. This is the paradox of the shadow light. The reason you feel invisible is not because you lack light. It is because you have hidden your own sun. Today, our shadow work is not about fighting a monster in the dark. It is about going on a treasure hunt, a sacred search for the brilliant light we have exiled from ourselves. To begin this search, I invite you to set your intention. In the comments, let us create a beacon of shared courage. Simply write, "I am ready to find my light." The feeling of invisibility is a ghost that haunts the hallways of our lives. It is a profound loneliness, a sense that we are on the outside of our own experience, looking in. To understand where this ghost comes from, we must understand the tragic fusion that happens for so many of us in childhood. The fusion of our identity with our function. As children, we are desperate to be seen. To be seen by our caregivers is to know that we exist, that we are real, that we matter. And in our brilliant, adaptive way, we quickly learn what gets us seen. For some of us, we learned that our being, our simple, quiet, intrinsic presence, was not enough. We were not seen for who we were. We were seen for what we did. Perhaps you were the little helper. You got a smile, a pat on the head, when you helped set the table or comforted a younger sibling. You learned, to be seen, I must be useful. My function is my visibility. Perhaps you were the star student. You were seen when you brought home the A+ report card or won the spelling bee. You learned, to be seen, I must achieve. My performance is my visibility. Perhaps you were the entertainer. You were seen when you made everyone laugh, when you were charming and bright. You learned, to be seen, I must be pleasing. My personality is my visibility. This is not just about childhood conditioning. This is the very architecture of the persona that Carl Jung described. The persona is the functional role we play in the world. It is necessary. It is how we navigate society. But the tragedy occurs when we forget that it is a role, when the mask fuses to the face, when we come to believe that the function we perform is the totality of who we are. And what happens to the parts of us that do not fit the function? What happens to the messy, daydreaming, artistic, sensitive,
quiet, and profoundly unique parts of our soul. They are deemed non-functional, useless, and so they are exiled. But this is where our shadow work today takes a surprising turn. Usually, we think of the shadow as the container for our darkness, our anger, our shame, our fear, and it is. But the shadow is also the container for our light. Carl Jung knew this. He called it the golden shadow. It is the repository for all the brilliant, powerful, and positive qualities that we, for whatever reason, felt we were not allowed to own. Your authentic creativity that you dismissed as impractical. Your profound sensitivity that you learned to hide because you were called too emotional. Your quiet wisdom that was never valued in a loud family. Your ambition that you suppressed because you were afraid of outshining a sibling. Your raw, untamed joy that was seen as too much. All of this gold, this brilliant, radiant light, was packed away and banished to the shadow right alongside your pain and your anger. You exiled the most beautiful parts of yourself because they were not useful to the function you had to perform to be seen. Let's imagine Chloe. She is in a work meeting. Her team is brainstorming a new project. Chloe has a brilliant, innovative idea. It flashes into her mind complete and exciting. But she remembers being a child. She was the peacemaker between her two older brothers, louder. Her role was to be quiet, to agree, to smooth things over. When she tried to express her own exciting ideas, her brothers would often tease her or dismiss her. She learned, my brilliance disrupts the system. To keep the peace, I must dim my light. So in the meeting, she stays silent. The brilliant idea, her golden shadow, is pushed back down into the darkness. A few minutes later, a male colleague, Mark, offers up a similar but less developed idea. The boss loves it. Mark, that's brilliant. Run with it. And in that moment, Chloe feels that familiar sickening pang, the feeling of being completely invisible. She thinks, why does this always happen to me? No one ever sees me. But from a Jungian perspective, the dynamic is profound. The outer world is simply mirroring her inner reality. How can the boss see a light that she herself is actively hiding? How can the world value a part of her that she herself has exiled as non-functional? Her invisibility is not a failure of the world to see her. It is the tragic success of her own childhood survival strategy. Her program to dim her light to keep the peace is still running perfectly and unconsciously. She has become a ghost in her own professional life, haunting the edges of her own brilliance. This is the core of this profound shadow work. It is the realization that we are often the architects of our own invisibility. We are waiting for the world to give us permission to shine when we are the ones holding the key to the lantern, and that lantern is in the shadow. The journey to become visible, then, is not an external one. It is not about learning to speak louder or to be more assertive in a superficial way. It is an internal archaeological dig. It is the courageous work of journeying into the darkness of your own psyche, not to fight monsters, but to reclaim your own buried treasure. To find the radiant, golden parts of yourself you had to hide to survive. And to begin the slow, sacred work of bringing them back into the light.
So we have this treasure chest of our own golden qualities, our brilliance, our creativity, our authentic joy, locked away in the shadow. And the immediate logical question is, why? Why would we ever choose to hide the best parts of ourselves? It seems like an act of self-sabotage. But the psyche, as Carl Jung taught us, is never illogical. It is always, in its own way, trying to protect us. The decision to exile our light is not a mistake. It is a profound act of love and loyalty based on the information we had at the time. This shadow work requires us to look with deep compassion at the three primary fears that motivate this self-dimming. The first reason we hide our light is the fear of abandonment. As children, connection is survival. And we learn that to maintain connection within our family system, we must often conform to the unspoken rules of that system. If you grew up in a family where humility is prized above all else, shining too brightly can be seen as arrogant. If you outshine a parent or a sibling who has a fragile ego, your success can feel like a threat to them, and therefore a threat to your connection with them. So you learn to play small. You learn to dim your light, not out of a lack of confidence, but out of a deep, fierce, and loving loyalty to your tribe. You are unconsciously saying, I will not abandon you by becoming more than you. I will stay here, with you, in the familiar shade. Your invisibility is an act of love. The second reason we hide our light is the fear of envy. This is a deep archetypal fear. In many ancient cultures, it was believed that the envy of others, the evil eye, could bring misfortune. And on a psychological level, this is true. To shine brightly is to make yourself a target. It can attract not just admiration, but also jealousy, criticism, and resentment from those who are afraid of their own light. The poet Marianne Williamson wrote famously, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." We fear our own light because we intuitively know it can provoke the darkness in others. So we hide it. We adopt a kind of preemptive humility. We make self-deprecating jokes. We downplay our accomplishments. We pretend we are less than we are. It is a strategy to keep us safe from the perceived danger of other people's shadows. Your invisibility is an act of self-protection. The third reason, and it is a subtle one, is the fear of responsibility. To fully own your light is to accept the responsibility that comes with it. If you acknowledge your own wisdom, you can no longer pretend you don't know the answer. If you acknowledge your own power, you can no longer play the victim. If you acknowledge your own creative genius, you can no longer make excuses for not creating. To step into your light is to be called into a higher level of service and accountability. And that can be terrifying. It is often easier and more comfortable to stay in the familiar territory of "I don't know" or "I can't." Hiding our light allows us to avoid the heroic journey of our own potential. Your invisibility is an act of comfort. Let's go back to Chloe. She looks at these three fears, and she sees herself in all of them. She dimmed her light out of loyalty to her brothers to keep the peace, fear of abandonment. She downplays her successes at work because she doesn't want her female colleagues to feel threatened or envious, fear of envy. And she avoids taking the lead on the big innovative project because if she did and it succeeded, the expectations on her would be even higher. The responsibility would be immense, fear of responsibility. Her invisibility is not one thing. It is a complex, multi-layered defense system, a shield built from love, from fear, and from a desire for comfort. This is the compassionate reframe that shadow work offers. You are not hiding because you are weak or flawed. You are hiding because a part of you is trying, in its own way, to love and protect you.
And here we arrive at another of Carl Jung's most profound insights. The world acts as a mirror for our inner state. If we are actively hiding our own light from ourselves, the world will often conspire to help us. It will mirror our own self-abandonment back to us. The boss who doesn't see your potential is simply reflecting the part of you that is terrified of that potential. The partner who doesn't seem to hear your wisdom is reflecting the part of you that is silencing your own inner voice. They are not the cause of your invisibility, they are the symptom. They are the messengers showing you the parts of yourself that you have exiled. This shifts the work entirely. The path to becoming visible is not about trying to change other people. It is not about demanding that they see you. It is about having the courage to finally see yourself. It is about turning your gaze away from the external world's reflection and turning it inward into the quiet, dark, and surprisingly luminous landscape of your own shadow. It is about learning to become your own witness, your own champion, your own source of unwavering light.
So we arrive at this profound and perhaps unsettling truth. My invisibility is not the world's fault. It is the success of my own protection program. And the light I am so desperately seeking from others is the very light I have hidden within myself. This realization is the key. It shifts us from a position of passive victimhood, waiting to be seen, to a position of active sovereignty, choosing to see ourselves. The entire locus of power moves from the outside to the inside. This is the heroic journey that Carl Jung spoke of. It is the journey of turning away from the distracting noise of the world's approval and disapproval, and turning towards the quiet, unwavering signal of our own soul. So, how do we begin? How do we practice this art of self-seeing, especially when we have spent a lifetime looking away? We do not begin by trying to be a lighthouse. We begin by lighting a single small candle in a dark room. The work is gentle. It is subtle. It is about redirecting the most powerful force you possess, the beam of your own attention. I want to offer you a foundational practice for this work. It is a simple meditation, but its effects can be profound. I call it the inner gaze. I invite you to find a quiet space where you can be undisturbed for just 5 minutes. Sit comfortably and gently close your eyes. Begin by taking 3 slow, deep breaths, breathing in calm and sighing out the tension of the day. Now, I want you to imagine that you can turn your sense of sight inward. Imagine your awareness like a soft, gentle spotlight, turning away from the outside world and shining down into the center of your own chest, your heart space. You are not looking for anything in particular. You are not trying to find a problem to fix or an emotion to analyze. You are simply arriving. You are bringing your full, compassionate attention to your own inner center. For many of us, this will feel strange at first. Your mind will wander. The inner critic will chime in. This is silly. What am I doing? That's okay. Gently, without judgment, just guide your attention back to the quiet, simple act of being present with yourself. As you hold your attention here, I invite you to silently offer a few words of acknowledgement. These are not affirmations you are trying to force yourself to believe. They are simple statements of fact. You might say silently to this inner part of yourself, I see you. I know you are in there. I am here with you now. Your presence is enough. Feel the resonance of these words. You are not asking this part of you to be brilliant or useful or pleasing. You are simply acknowledging its existence, its being. You are giving to yourself the very thing you have been so desperately seeking from the outside world, the gift of being seen. Stay here in this quiet inner gaze for just a few minutes. Do not expect fireworks. The work of reclaiming your light is not a sudden explosion. It is the slow, patient, and deeply loving act of reestablishing a connection. It is learning to be a friend to yourself. It is learning to keep your own company. When Chloe tries this for the first time, her mind is a storm. She feels restless. The silence feels empty. But she stays. The second time, the storm is a little quieter. She feels a faint warmth in her chest, where her attention is resting. By the fifth or sixth time, something magical happens. As she says the words, "I see you," she feels a subtle emotional response, a feeling of relief, a quiet sense of coming home. It is the lost, exiled part of her, the brilliant child who hid her light, finally feeling the warmth of her own loving gaze. She is not just seeing, she is being seen by herself. This practice is the beginning of the great reversal. You are reversing the flow of your life force. Instead of constantly projecting your attention and energy outward, seeking to be seen, you are drawing it back inward, using it to illuminate your own soul. This is the essence of this stage of shadow work. And as you practice this, a subtle shift will begin to occur in your external world. As you learn to inhabit your own center, to take up space within your own being, you will begin to project a different energy. You will carry the quiet, solid confidence of a person who is not looking for approval, because they are their own source of it. Your presence will have a new weight, a new radiance. And the world, in its mirroring function, will have no choice but to respond. The boss might suddenly ask for your opinion. Your friends might start listening more intently. You will begin to feel visible, not because you did anything to demand it, but because you finally allowed yourself to be seen by the only person whose sight truly matters, you.
Today, we have ventured into the luminous darkness of the shadow. We have learned the profound and paradoxical truth that the reason we feel invisible is not because we lack light, but because we have hidden our own sun. We have unmasked the fusion of our identity with our function, a survival strategy learned in childhood that taught us our value was in what we did, not in who we were. We have looked with compassion at the reasons we exile our own brilliance, out of love, out of fear, out of a need for comfort. This is the courageous inquiry at the heart of shadow work. And we have discovered that the path to becoming visible is an inside job. It is not about demanding to be seen by others. It is about having the courage to finally see ourselves. The practice of the inner gaze is your first step on this sacred path of self-reclamation. It is a simple, gentle way to reverse the flow of your attention, to turn your own loving gaze inward, and to begin nourishing the exiled parts of your soul with your own presence. You were not born to be a ghost in your own life. You were born to be a radiant, unique, and irreplaceable presence in this world. Your light matters. Your being is enough. This is the truth that Carl Jung's work consistently points us toward. The journey to wholeness is a journey home to the self. But as you begin to reclaim your own light and your own intrinsic worth, as you start to untangle your identity from your function, you will come face to face with the gatekeeper that has been enforcing this entire system. You will have to confront the deepest fear of the peacekeeper, the helper, and the people-pleaser, the fear of disappointing others. Why does the thought of letting someone down feel so catastrophic? What is the profound shadow duty we feel we owe to everyone except ourselves? How can we learn to be loyal to our own soul, even if it means disappointing the expectations of others? That is the heroic threshold we will learn to cross together tomorrow, on day 9 of our journey. For this week, your invitation is to practice the art of self-seeing. Find 5 quiet minutes, turn your gaze inward, and offer your own exiled light the simple, profound gift of your attention. To anchor this radical act of inner visibility, I invite you to make a quiet declaration in the comments below. It is a statement of a new direction, a new loyalty. Simply write, "I am learning to see myself." By sharing these words, you affirm your commitment to this sacred journey. You join a community of souls who are all learning to stop searching for light in the outside world and are starting to find the unwavering sun within. Thank you for having the courage to look. Your light has been waiting for you.